Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the most underrated champions, builds, rune setups for patch 9.12. And then just two quick announcements before we get started here, guys. I did just make an Instagram account, so be sure to go follow me on there if you have yet to already. Also, I'm going to be giving away the new Darkstar Shaco skin as being part of the League Partner Program. In the next few days here, I'll be getting the codes, so I'll be giving those away on my Discord, on Twitch, on my stream, and then also on Twitter. So if you guys aren't following me on those socials either, then be sure to do so if you would like a chance to win the new Darkstar Shaco skin. So to start it off here, a top lane pick, Tryndamere is a great pick in this patch against a few of the most picked top laners. He's a very good pick, one of the best picks into Mordekaiser right now because he can do a really good job at beating him in the first few levels. If you run Ignite on Tryndamere against the Mordekaiser, you can have really good kill pressure in the first few levels against him. Also, once you do it level 6 as a Tryndamere, you do have your ultimate, which is a great counter to Tryndamere as well. And once you do scale into the mid game, you're going to very easily be able to beat the Mordekaiser in the 1v1 just due to your sustained damage and due to your ultimate as well. So if you are looking for somebody that can do well into Mordekaiser right now, Tryndamere is definitely the pick. He's also a champion that people have just kind of figured out how to play over the past couple of, past couple of patches here, past couple of months. Lethal Tempo is now the best keystone rune on him. You no longer want to run Conquer on Tryndamere. Also, the build setup of Essence Reaver into Rageblade and then Infinity Edge is doing super good on him now. People have just adapted to that build instead of going for something like a Static Shiv into Infinity Edge or Ravenous Hydra or Tiamat. Essence Reaver is pretty much just the standalone best starting item now on Tryndamere, or the best rush item on him for this patch. So new setup, along with him being a pretty good pick into some of the most picked top laners right now, does make him a solid pick for this patch. So taking a look at a jungler here, Olaf is someone who hasn't got any direct changes the past few patches, but similar to the Tryndamere pick, due to indirect changes due to certain champions seeing a rise in popularity in solo queue, it has made Olaf a lot stronger. So with Sejuani seeing a rise the past few patches, she's the third most picked jungler right now, and Olaf does very well into the Sejuani pick. Olaf can do pretty good into most tank junglers because you run the Conquer on Olaf, you stack that up very quickly. You already do have great dueling potential in your kit in the early game, and paired up with the Conquer, it's even that much better. He also does great into the Lee Sin, really good into the Elise, which are two of the most picked junglers for this patch as well. So with certain junglers being played a lot more now across the past couple of patches, it has made Olaf a lot better. Now just keep in mind this setup right now for Olaf, a lot of players, pretty much all pro players, are just running Flash and Smite on him. They're not running Ghost, they're also not running Predator. You want to make sure you are running the Conquer. By taking the Flash there on Olaf, it just allows you for your 1v1 duels in the early game to be a little bit stronger, flashing in order to secure the kill. If the enemy does try to get away from you or flash over the wall, you don't really need the Ghost on the Olaf in the early game. You're going to take the approach velocity as well there with your rune. So as long as you can hit your axe when you're dueling with Olaf, you should have enough sticking power that you don't need the Ghost in order to stick onto your opponent. So running the Flash right now is the go-to, and pretty much every single pro is doing that on Olaf for 9.12. And then moving on to a mid lane pick now, Camille mid is something that's being played a lot more over the past few patches, especially in the higher elos. It's a pick that does struggle a little bit in the early game. If you're not able to get a hook shot off and get a stun off on the opponent in the laning phase, then it doesn't have like a ton of kill pressure in the early game. But what you want to do on this Camille mid pick is you rush for the Tiamat, you grab that, you want to play it kind of similar to the Pike mid or the Talon mid, shove in waves once you grab that item, and then just look to roam. You have great roaming potential with this Camille mid pick. She's also very good paired up with this Sejuani right now. That's a very deadly combo, especially once you get the level 6. It's a guaranteed kill because if Camille uses her ult on the opponent and Sejuani comes in, then it's just a guaranteed kill because there's no way the enemy is escaping from that chain crowd control. For keystone rune options on Camille mid, Fleet Footwork is the one that's doing best on her for solo queue. Press the Attack is also the other best option right now. Some people are running Comet, some people are running Grasp, but those are underperforming on her in solo queue. You could run Grasp, or you can run Grasp into melee matchups against assassins to where you can look to proc that consistently, but either the Fleet Footwork or the Press the Attack are generally going to be your most consistent options for this patch. So next up here for Kaitlyn, this isn't Kaitlyn in herself that's underrated for this patch, it is the new build setup on her. So this build setup of Infinity Edge into Essence Reaver as your 2 core items is being played a lot right now in solo queue, especially in the higher elos and by pro players. The reason to why you'd want to go with this build as opposed to a Zeal item as your second item is because the amount of burst damage this 2 item spike provides you is really good. Your ability damage is much higher, your Q damage and your ultimate damage are going to hit a lot harder. Your headshot damage is also very good, so if the enemy does step on a trap in a mid-game team fight, you're going to be able to chunk them very hard. It's going to like half HP them. If they're a squishy target, you're probably going to be able to hit them with a trap, use your ultimate, and they're just going to die because of how much extra damage and how much burst damage you are going to do with this item setup. You also do not run out of mana in team fights with this setup, which is great for Kaitlyn. So just overall, this setup does provide you with a little bit more burst damage and less DPS damage. So the other build setup of Infinity Edge into Rapid Fire Cannon and Static Shiv, still great on Kaitlyn, is still a very good setup, but it kind of depends on what you're looking for, what your playstyle is, and both build setups are now very good for this patch. I would say that it does come down to the enemy team comp a little bit as to which build you'd want to go for. So if the enemy team does have a lot of squishy champions, or if they have a lot of like dive champions to where you're not really going to be able to get a ton of auto attacks off in team fights, then I would go for the AD heavy setup of the Infinity Edge and Essence Reaver. If you're up against a more so tanky enemy team comp though, or if they do have more of a front line on their team to where you are going to be auto attacking a lot more in team fights, then I would go for the attack speed route. Now if we take a look at Karma, Karma is a champion that did receive a lot of different buffs in this patch, and she's a champion that's being played a lot right now down in the support role. But for mid lane and for top lane Karma, it's a pick that's also doing very well, but it's not something being played a lot for this patch. So for top lane Karma, doing very well right now with the Kleptomancy and with more so of the tank setup. You can also go for like an AP route on this top lane Karma to where you do go Luden's Rush into like an Athene's or something like that. But generally speaking, if you're up against like an enemy top lane champion who is an AD top laner, then going for Iceborne Gauntlet Rush just does allow you to have a very good laning phase, does allow you to do very well in the 1v1 in those matchups. For mid lane Karma though, going for the Aerie, going for the Ludens into Athene's and Arden is doing great on her for 9.12. This build setup gives you a few different benefits, so it gives you a lot of burst damage there with the Ludens. If you do go Athene's and Arden, it also kind of makes you like a second support on your team, so you're going to be providing your team with really good shields. You're going to be keeping your AD carry very safe while still being able to deal a lot of damage yourself there, because Athene's and the Arden Sensor, they do still provide AP, and if you do go Ludens, you're still going to be able to hit pretty hard with your empowered Qs in team fights. So next up here for Gangplank, Gangplank's been getting a little bit stronger these past few patches, not really due to any direct changes, but due to indirect changes and certain top lane champions making their way back into the meta or just being played more in solo queue. So Tahm Kench is a champion being played a lot more in the top lane right now, and Gangplank is a very solid pick into the Tahm Kench. You just do a very good job at zoning him with your barrels in the laning phase. You can very easily look to constantly get grasp or klepto procs in the matchup. He also can do pretty good into the Mordekaiser pick because you do have your oranges, which you can use to get out of the Mordekaiser ultimate. He benefits from the Aatrox nerfs in this patch as well. He's a pretty solid pick into the Jax, into the Darius. So Gangplank right now I think is probably in one of the best spots he's been in, at least over the past few months now. So he's a pick that if you can play well in the top lane, he's definitely worth picking up for 9.12. And then lastly here, to round out the video, Sivir mid is something that's seeing a little bit more popularity right now in this patch, with Sivir just being a very strong pick and being undoubtedly the strongest AD carry for 9.12. You can throw her in the mid lane and you can still make her work because she's just that strong for this patch. We have seen AD carries being played in the mid lane in the past, like the Lucian pick, a little bit of the Ezreal, Corki as well. So this Sivir mid pick, it actually can do pretty well into some of the meta mid lane lane champions, it is going to struggle a little bit against like assassin picks in the laning phase, but if you can player into certain mage picks, you do have the ability to very easily shove them under tower in the laning phase. You do have your spell shield, which you can use to block their abilities, and it does make it difficult for you to gank Sivir as long as you are using that correctly in the laning phase. She's also a pick that if you do play her in the mid lane, you're going to scale into a much quicker mid game spike because you're going to be getting more XP. Once you do get your level 6, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to get ganked as well because you got your ultimate, you got your spell shield. Once you get a couple levels, you're going to be able to get perma priority in the laning phase too, so you're going to force the enemy to stay under their tower and force them to just not be able to roam at all. So it's definitely a very interesting pick and something that's worth looking into for 9.12. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. Those are the most underrated champions builds setups for patch 9.12. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.